And there we go. We've got an angry Seahawks fan, folks. There's nothing we can do. The NFL draft is happening right now. Mr. Thiago Abdalla, how do you feel about Devin Witherspoon?
I have no problem with Devin Witherspoon. I have a problem with them taking a cornerback at 5 when we already have kind of a stud cornerback on the other side.
Yep.
And the Legion of Boom survived with 2 good safeties and Richard Sherman. And we kind of rotated the other cornerback. So, I mean, I kind of wanted Jalen Carter or someone to wreck the interior defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
But, and you guys took Anthony Richardson. I'd accept Anthony Richardson at 5. That would be okay with me as well. But man,
anybody but Will Levis.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, if you were a little younger and could sit for a couple of years, we'd take him. But I don't think he's the guy for us. So yeah, I don't know. I might eat my words, but I was expecting something else. Didn't want a cornerback.
Jay's like, I know nothing about American sports. Why are you guys talking about this stuff? And the only reason is because the draft is on right now and because both of our teams sucked so much last year that we get to pick really high.
I mean, the Seahawks are decent.
Well, I mean,
they were supposed to be really bad,
but they weren't.
Yeah, I mean, they made the playoffs.
That's true. I forgot about that. They did make the playoffs. I'm just always waiting for the Seahawks to fall apart again.
It's been a while since we fall apart, man.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Apart. Yeah,
a little bit of a couple missteps after switching out quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But so, like I said, I have never been so grateful in a long time that I cracked this sucker open and it was good. Thank you.
Thank you, dude.
Your friggin' prose just like knocked me. And it was one of those things where there was some line in chapter 2 where it was and I wish I could have looked it up, but it was so good. It just grabbed me and said, you know what? You're in good hands. Let's go this way. And it was awesome. Every bit of it. I didn't get from the reviews how much it was about the characters. And, it wasn't plot and it wasn't epic. It was like these people that you can easily fall in love with. So I just went absolutely nuts for it. So thank you.
No, that's just it. You're an author as well. It's the best feeling when someone clicks with something that you can't really predict. It's like some people click with the prose, some people click with the characters, other people hate the characters. So it's just awesome when people click with it and say, okay, I'm in. Let's go.
I'm in. Let's go. Yeah. I kind of wanted to go through a couple of different topics and just kind of dig through them a little bit. And I it's probably me just telling you what I liked, but I want to start with Nasha because I kind of want to move up in my order. Now, I liked Nasha a lot, but there are 2 other characters that were so good they surpassed Nasha in terms of the favorites list. Does that make sense? Did you hear that a lot? Or
sure.
No?
Yeah.
People have to have different characters, right? That they love.
Yeah. Usually people are either like diehard fans of Nasha and are okay with the others, or they're like diehard fans of Lynn and just want to skip over the Nasha chapters.
Oh, wow. I can't imagine that at all.
Yeah. I mean, if you read when you get to book 2, it's funny because everyone who said, I mean, I heard this a lot in reviews. They say like, oh, I didn't care for Nasha in book 1, but I really, really like her in book 2. I think it's because of stuff getting closer together and people I made the connections a little bit clearer in book 2 in Shade of Madness. So I think people bought into Nasha because they understood kind of like where she fit into this whole thing and started to understand her importance for the series as a whole, basically, and the role that she's gonna play. And
Yeah.
she's, I mean, as a character, I think she's really cool. She's like one of my favorites, and I really enjoyed writing, especially her chapters in book 2, because the way that she evolves and all that. She's a challenging character to write, dude. It's like, writing all the emotional stuff and having her being overwhelmed with it. But I took a while to find like how I wanted to go about it to make it work, I guess. She was definitely the hardest character for me to write in book 1, but once I had solved that in book 2, I think I kind of got a lot more comfortable with her, and maybe that shows, and people started warming up to her a bit.
Well, one of the things that I love about Nasha is that she's constantly uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
It felt like it was an introvert denied.
Yeah.
No, too many people, go away.
Yeah. I mean, that makes perfect sense because she has no control over other people's emotions and what they throw. It's like only introverts would understand this, but I'm a very big introvert, and one of the things I hated most in my life was when I was like at a party or something, and the extroverts would come and try to pull me from my chair to go dance. It's like, come on, it's fun. Everyone's having fun. Like, I don't want. If I'm not dancing, doesn't I mean, what if it's not my idea of having fun? And my mother is like the main culprit of that forever. Like, she would. Anytime I was at like any event with music with my mother, she would be the first one to try and pull me out of my chair. And when I got and when I said no, she's, oh, I'm just trying to help you have fun. I mean, I don't need help having fun. It's fine. I'll dance when I feel like it. But it's like, and so she's kind of like that all the time. It's kind of like people are trying to pull her out to dance, and she has no control over it. And she just has to stand there, kind of like in the middle of everyone dancing, and pretend like she's having fun while she controls herself. But she's not. So
I had never, and again, my bench is not that deep, but I had never seen anyone use emotion as like the primary driver for all of the magic system. Now, I'm sure other people have done it before, but did you draw that from somewhere? Did you build that from, like, how did you get there?
Yeah, this was like one of the first decisions I made before writing the book, because to me, emotions are kind of our superpower, like in real life. Like when you're angry, when you're super angry, you get like, you see red, and you don't even like feel pain or whatever.
I can lift a car.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
like,
your baby's in danger.
Yeah. And, different emotions kind of give you like, of course it's adrenaline, but, it kind of gives you like these different kind of superpowers. And I love the George R. Martin quote that fantasy is real life turned up to 11, right? So I kind of got that concept and turned it up to 11. I was like, okay, so what if emotions actually did give you like superpowers and did give you magic? So that was like one of the main things that I decided early on. I was pretty sure I wanted to do it based on emotions.
And had you seen any examples of that, or did you just build this out of whole cloth?
Not the way that I do it. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I think I've heard about people doing it. I have probably read books with people using emotion and magic systems and just forgot because my brain is a sieve.
Sure. So we'll just go with no.
Yeah, I guess.
So the the two completely opposing viewpoints, and we'll go with the Ronar, and because we're starting with them,
Yeah.
the idea that death is necessary. Okay, cool, great. The weak must be pruned. Oh wait, hang on.
Yeah.
Because both of these have some. Hey, I don't know. It's like not like one of
Yeah.
them is right.
Yeah.
So, how did you setting that whole world on a fulcrum? How did again? How did you get to that point?
Yeah. So,
Because death is the theme, and that's where you're going and what you're addressing, right?
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And honestly, that's the answer. It's like, how do people react to death? Right. And I got like stories from my past of the way I'd seen people react to death. And one of the main reactions is fear, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So if people fear death, how far are they willing to go? Right. Are they willing to find a way that they can live forever? Or if there's a goddess that promises them, blessings and eternal life, are they willing to do that? Is there a trade-off? We'll find out as the series progresses.
Right.
I'm not telling. But so if you're really afraid of that, you can go to one side, and then once you have one side, the basic kind of like heart of a story is tension. So the way to build tension is to put someone on the opposite side, which is, if it's a sin to kill here, well, then why don't people just kill loosely here? Because they're also afraid of dying, because they think that if too many people are alive, everyone's going to die, right?
Right.
You pull too much from the earth and then the earth dies. So, and then suddenly you have these opposing cultures. It's like, like what's the worst thing that could exist in the world for these people? It's these people. Okay, so I'm going to do that.
People.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get him to kill a prince. It'll be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
The like details I love. Like, how the Abercrombie stuff stands out in the details and the repetition.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Hunter Three Striped, to me, for whatever reason, landed every single time it hit on the page. And it was just like, I had no idea what it was, but I knew I should be proud of it. And I was proud of it. Right?
Yeah. And that's exactly like the heart of my book, right? You don't need to know what a three-striped hunter is. All you need to know is Nasha is proud of it.
Yeah.
Some people like to have all the backstory of what a three-striped hunter is and how Nasha got there and whatever. Maybe that's a story for a novella.
Sure.
But it's just not my style to pause the story and explain to you the history of the Ronar, which I do have. I did write out. I have like over 100 pages of world building, but it is not. To me, the story is boring if you stop the natural progression for the benefit of the reader to explain to them what a three-striped hunter is and why that's important. Because it's important to Nasha as a matter of pride. It's not important to Nasha in a matter of what she needs to face in the story as a whole. What is important to her is explained. But if you grab onto that and say, I don't know what a three-striped hunter is, I can't enjoy this book, I can't disagree with you there. Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry, I didn't fill out every single piece for you.
Yeah, and I mean, she's a hunter. She's three-striped. It's better than one stripe. It means she's rising in the ranks. It means she has a certain level of respect, and it's kind of like a corporation. I've said this other times, but the clans are my corporate life. Basically, they give you a title, they tell you you're important, and suddenly you start believing that, even if you're not. So, people try to blind you with those titles and try to tell you that the corporation is the only way of life. And if you leave the corporation, you're going to die hungry and you're going to live in the street and whatever. I guess I kind of believe that because I'm still working at the bank. But I mean, I don't believe that. I'm kidding. But I mean, It is the
breaking
way
free
that,
of the yoke is the tough
yeah,
part.
yeah. But um, and then okay, so but what happens if that goes against the core of your being? What happens if they give you this title and they make you fight, but you know that you can't fight because if you do, you're gonna flip out. And that was like that's the main theme of Nasha. It's like, okay, I used corporate life to kind of put it into fantasy setting and make it real fights, like people punching each other and stabbing each other. And then, you know, uh suddenly you have these people who are ruthless like a corporation, who think death is necessary, like, firing people, because otherwise the corporation is going to die if you don't fire people, I guess. It's what they tell you. And everyone's that's been working there for enough time knows it's not, maybe not true, but you have like these stakeholders and people in the market that demands these results from the company. And that's also kind of like present in the background if you look at it closely. I'm not going to spoil anything, but yeah, I mean, so I even forgot the question, and I'm just
I liked it. So basically, what you're
yeah,
saying is Nasha is in mergers and acquisitions.
yeah, yeah, basically.
I like the slopers. The idea that we hate slopers too so much is just having those little factions all
Mhm.
broken up within that environment where you feel like you guys should all be on the same page, I think.
Yeah, and that comes from Brazilian culture. You know, people romanticize the favelas here, the shanty towns and all that, and there still is, and for the longest time there was like a lot of prejudice. Like, if you were born in one of these places, you were automatically seen as a thief or a drug dealer or whatever. And that was just an easy kind of like port to you know the village people hate the slopers. um and you know I guess that kind of bloomed within the world I'd created. And it was pretty easy to just take from your whole life in that one, to be honest. All the prejudice and how the people are looked down upon, even if they're living higher up, but they're living like on the slope of a volcano, which is a lot more dangerous
Right?
than the city, right? That's actually something else that happens here in Brazil. No, when it rains a lot, like Rio de Janeiro, if you look at the city, it's kind of like a city surrounded by mountains, right? And a lot of people build the shanty kind of towns on the mountains, and sometimes when it rains, there are like landslides, and people lose like their houses and all that and die. So yeah, because it's a lot more dangerous than living flat ground here, at least. So even if they're looking down on the city is actually kind of,
The right place to be.
yeah.
So the other one with Nasha for me was too Abercrombian effect. Once again, I am not the monster.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it,
I have a
go
cool
ahead.
story about that.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I
Because
had
I'll
like,
just real quick, for me, it landed every time, right? It
yeah,
was the same time,
yeah,
like the three stripes. It,
yeah,
oh, Nasha thinks it's important. That's cool. The thing is that I think it's cool, right?
yeah.
I'm with her in believing that. And I am not the monster. It was the same thing where it just landed emotionally each time.
Hmm.
And it was like, yes.
Yeah, yeah. And that is a big influence for me, Abercrombie, and the way that he writes it, the repetition and all that. I was watching your stream yesterday with Tori, just wanting to chat about that because I'm really passionate about that series. Uh, but the repetition, I had like 5 times the level of repetition that I have in the published book. I had like like 30 other lines that all characters repeated, and my editor was like, that's too much. You can't do that."
It's too much. It's good.
Yeah,
It's too much.
yeah.
It's like, I want to use 6 cups of sugar.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like, roll back on the repetition, maybe one character, maybe one line, 2 lines, and otherwise it looks like it's not intentional. It just looks like bad writing. So even if it was intentional, I took his advice and I cut it out. I think Lynn had a phrase she kept repeating that I cut out. If 1 or 2 phrases. I don't even remember what it was, but yeah. I mean, I'm glad it stayed only with Nasha because it made her stand out in a different way, I think.
Right.
And it's just to her core, she's insecure because she doesn't know basically which emotions are hers, which emotions are her mother's. She can't separate that, so that it. I tell people my ideas are very logic based. So I think like if this then that. So if you couldn't understand your own emotions, if you can separate your emotions from other people's emotions, if you can't understand what you feel, do you understand who you are? Do you understand your identity? Right? And that's her path, right? So telling herself she's not a monster is kind of like a mantra to remind herself of maybe I don't know what I am, but I'm not the monster.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Maybe she is the monster and doesn't know it. Who knows? Have to keep reading. But
How would she know?
Yeah.
But all of the absorbing of emotion and trying to prevent the reactions from emotion and having that channeling through. Oh shoot. I'm trying to keep it within proper lengths for each section, but I have to bring up the relationship with Shy.
Sure. Yeah.
I loved how that relationship just kept leveling up the entire story and then payoff at the end.
Yeah. 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 And Shy was like the resource that I used to show Nasha's evolution, right? Because I showed how she grew as a character through her relationship with Shy. Because the way that she acts with Shy at the beginning, basically forgetting basic needs, forgetting like food for her. And then what happens at the end is kind of like the opposite, right? When she has to make a choice.
Yeah.
So, and it shows her evolution because the choice is also related. I'm not going to spoil anything, but the choice is related to what she believed in full-heartedly, which was what the clans taught her whole life, which is what Mansa taught her whole life.
Right.
And that's her kind of, starting to think for herself, maybe starting to understand a little bit of who she is, starting to create her own identity. So, that's how I decided to like show character development. And I realize I'm an author who uses a lot of subtext. Like I'm not gonna stop that moment, which is supposed to be a powerful emotional moment. I don't know how it hits with different people, but I'm not gonna stop it and say, "Look, this is how I evolved." Oh, because and it's fine. I'm not criticizing people who do that, but my style isn't to stop the story and tell you, "Oh, this is what I learned, so I'm not gonna do that," and show her like realizing that in her mind. I show that through her actions and through the choices that she makes.
Right.
So, and the rest is subtext, which to me makes it a lot more powerful. It's how I like reading books. It's when I see subtext well done is when I like fist pump and say this book is so good, right? So this is it's what I wanted to write. It's something that I saw in the 5th season a lot. Like the links, the callbacks, the foreshadowing, like all the subtext that she uses in that book is frankly insane. So yeah, that's basically what drove that relationship.
It's all in the subtext, the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
If you're telling a story and stuff. So, okay. Hang on 2 seconds. Oh, yes. Right here, I got a letter.
A
Was
letter
sent to me
Okay.
the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And it said, for Thiago,
Okay.
Abdalla.
Uh-huh.
And this is what the letter says. Let's see.
I'm already laughing because it's funny.
Dear Thiago, what did I ever do to you? Please stop. Sincerely, Mira. You're the meanest person in the world.
In my defense,
Go ahead.
in my I got nothing.
You
It needed to happen.
It needed to
It
happen. There's just
it
no
needed
getting
to
around
happen.
it.
Yep. Just how the world works. It's how the cookie crumbles, I guess.
Oh, like wrecked me. And honor and respect, but wrecked me when it's like, nope, this isn't going to
Yeah.
work out.
Yeah. Wait, you thought it was gonna work out? Oh, you're so cute. You're so
You're so
adorable.
cute.
Yeah.
I thought, I totally, I bought in 100%. It's like, all right, he's gonna do it. It's gonna be great. He's gonna fulfill his purpose. It's like, no, he's dead. He's dead. It's like, why did he? Like, you come this close to throwing the book across the room, where you're like, mother. All right, I'll take
Yeah. Yeah.
it.
I mean,
You're emotionally invested at that point where you start getting angry. Oh, you sweet summer child.
yeah.
You got nothing for it. It just needed to happen. That's the whole thing. Because it's a heavy hammer. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
mind telling you. For me, it was an emotional beat that was like getting punched in the face.
Yeah. So, you know how everyone thinks Giselle is something, and by the end of the series, he's another thing.
Yeah.
I'm very influenced by that, and everything that happens in book one might not be clear off the bat, but when you get to like book three, especially like the end of book two, and when everyone gets to read book three, I think you'll look back on everything that happened in book one, and you're gonna say, "Yeah, I agree. That needed to happen."
I'm going to say, yeah, Thiago's the meanest person ever.
Because look, I'll say this without spoilers.
We can do spoilers. Oh, you can't do spoilers.
No, I can't do spoilers for book 3 and 4. The characters aren't maybe what you're thinking they're going to be. They're not your traditional fantasy archetypes. So if you're looking for, the noble hero who's off to save the princess, or the paladin who's always, faithful and fair and just and Superman-esque, won't kill people, and or the person who struggles with her emotions, but deep down in her heart she has a heart of gold, and she won't do anything bad, and she won't be selfish. This isn't the series for you.
Yeah.
I can't write characters like
I
that.
figured that out when you killed Mira twice.
It's like, okay, she's dead, but how can I kill her again?
Yeah. I can bring hope, and then let's crush that hope down, just in case they thought they were reading something happy.
And I mean, the book isn't. I'm not, trying to be bleak or anything. It's just stuff is happening, and stuff isn't good in this world. But if the world is super hard, when you find hope, it's worth so much more.
Right.
So that's kind of what I'm going for.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and like I said, it worked. It worked. I mean, you wrecked me. The meanest person. So the other thing I gotta say is, and Adrian's really interesting, and I actually want to start off with this. The father approval thing worked so well because the way you kind of framed it up, I discounted the whole I need daddy's approval thing and kind of put him in that junior role where he needs to grow out of that type of thing. And the way that progressed was awesome.
I want you to read book 2 so bad right now.
Oh my gosh, you're biting your tongue, aren't you?
No, because I want to see what you're going to think about how stuff evolves. Because I think it takes like a large, like the step from the beginning of book 1 to the end of book 1, and the step from the end of book 1 to the end of book 2. Like the step from the end of book 1 to the end of book 2 is a lot larger, in my opinion. It's a lot longer of how far the characters progress and in their arcs, and not only, you know, their self-development, but their relationship with everyone around them and what happens with the characters around them. So I'm really eager for you to read book 2 to see what you think.
Okay, I'm gonna be highlighting father's approval. See more. Got it.
Because I mean, that can go two ways, right? He can like double down and say he doesn't want it, but actually search for it, or he can just, you know, throw everything up and say, no, screw it. But one way or the other, he needs to find resources to back up whatever choice he makes, and he doesn't have that at the beginning of book 2 yet. So,
okay,
we'll see. Yeah.
Well, you add that into the perfect older brother, you know, who was always in the right spot and always doing the right things. Like every kid that was like looking up at their older siblings, going, "I hate you."
Yeah.
It's just you mind that emotion. You're like, here, have some more.
Yeah. Like not even when he's gone. I mean, this isn't even a spoiler because he dies in the prologue. His brother's dead in the prologue.
Yeah.
Right. But you know, even dead, he's still like a shadow hanging over Adrian. So
okay, I'm gonna do. I don't like digging into layers because it can lead to weird places. But the idea of that here in the domain, we forget our dead. And for Jovu to have this huge shadow that is constantly over Adrian is wonderful for not subtext, theme, all of it, because it just it's like you guys are screwed up because this is what's happening to your boy.
Yep. And to me, it's just, you know, another kind of like depiction of life. You know, people will jump through hoops and do tricks, or whoever is giving them power, money, extending their life so they can live over 100 years. So they might not be faithful. They might not believe in their religion, but they sure as hell are not going to show that because it's a religion that's giving them their super long lives, right? They're living like over 100 years because of their religion. That's established. So you're still going to do the, you know, if the church says jump, you're going to jump. And I'm not, you know, bringing that to real life religion. It's just any institution that gives you what you want basically has power over you. And people are kind of hypocrites. They say no, but they do it. You have to do it the way our system is set up. So it's not even people's fault. You know, it's like you kind of have to do it.
Yeah. Okay, I want to get to this point. I don't know whether this matters to you or not.
Yeah.
But to me, the funniest thing in the book was that anytime something would happen, Adrian would go, "Let's go!"
Yeah.
No plan, no thought, just like, go! It was my favorite. Actually, another Abercrombie moment because it reminded me of Dogman and the crew, whenever they would do an attack, Black Dow would screw it up by going in fast.
Yeah. He's the barbarian. You know, everyone's planning. The barbarian's running and shouting.
And the other thing too is that I'll back it up. Is that every time he was like, immediately, let's run down the hallway and get the thing. All of that would play out. Like, people have complimented you on your action sequences. I would like to compliment you on your Adrian running after the thing sequences.
Because he always hits a wall.
Well, yeah, but because they worked, right? And from a mechanical perspective, I loved how it made it easy to move the plot. We're going here, right?
Yeah.
It gets you to the next section, and we're running to the next section. But I loved every single one of them. I was like, every time he took off, I was like, let's fight him. It's like, and it worked. It just, I loved it. And I don't know if you meant for it to be as impulsive as I took it to be. I'm sure it's woven in there, but to me, it was just to the point where it was funny, and I loved it.
Yeah, I actually did, because that's my take on how I think people would react in real life if we were in situations like these. You know, because people, of course, you know, people are always like, "Oh, why doesn't he stop and think about it?" It's like, dude, just think about like 3 seconds what's going on, right? His father hates him. His father is like an asshole to him, and he feels like he needs to prove himself to his father. So he's already got this pressure over him. He's got another shadow of, you know, his brother hanging over him, who's dead and who should be forgotten and not talked about, but everyone's always reminding him of his brother. And then he's got the only person who's ever shown affection or love to him that was killed, like torn away from him. And I purposefully do not show what happens in that scene so that you feel the same shock that he felt when he was told that, right? And then when a lot of people say, "What? Did I miss something? What's happening?" And like, yes, perfect. It worked. That's what I wanted you to feel. Are you confused? Yes, I'm confused. Yeah, so's Adrian. So yeah, that's what happened when you lose a loved one and you're not expecting it. So that's kind of like the way that I try to do it. So but you know, aside from that, it's like, so imagine you've got all that on your shoulders, and you suddenly you have to go against what you believe, because you have to use the religion now, because it's the only shot that she has of being brought back, right? And suddenly, you know, he has to prove himself not only to his father but to the church. And suddenly you give him an army, but all he really wants is to kind of like, you know, solve this threat that no one even knows what it is. So imagine that you're like this completely unprepared kid, basically, and your mind is like a royal of 10,000 things, and all you want is just to have your you know, your fiance or your girlfriend back. And
girlfriend back.
Yeah, you don't even want any of this shit, you know? And I mean, how would you act? You know?
Well,
wouldn't you just like run after stuff and do it? Or would you stop and plan, you know?
And I would blame you. Why did you take my girlfriend away? So while we're here on what I consider the white elephant of A Touch of Light, I loved going from the prologue and going into chapter 1 and going, what?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Because it did make me go back and make sure I knew what I thought I knew. And 2, more importantly, it made me go, oh, you better pay attention, because this is going to get thick quick.
Yeah.
Which serves the reader so well.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the whole, it's like, you're on notice. Are you paying attention? Because you better be.
Yeah.
And I thought that worked, because it's like, wake up. You don't know what's going on.
That's exactly it. And I mean, I love reading books like that. I know people might watch this and say, screw you. Well, you're trying to be a mean author, but
Well,
it's
you are a
not. It's
mean
just
author.
like, I mean, I am, but it's just so fun to me. It's always been so fun to be rewarded for paying attention. Okay,
Hmm.
maybe I'm too much of a nerd. I don't know. But I always found it fun to be rewarded for paying attention. I always found it fun when, you actually are able to find the little breadcrumbs that they leave and say, oh, I think this is going to happen. And when it actually happens, that's really cool, right? You feel good about yourself, but not everything. It's also cool to, have those like wow moments, I didn't see this coming. So, yeah, it is 100% a book that you need to pay attention. If it's a book that you want to just like add to your books read in during the year and listen to the audiobook at 2.5 speed, you're not going to get everything from it. I'm sorry.
No.
And I mean, I'm not saying this to be like mean or anything. It's just I wrote it in a way that I love. I wanted to write a book like the books that I love reading.
Yep.
And I love reading a book with care and paying attention and seeing all the connections. And that's what I went for here. And I totally understand if it's not for everyone. And people bring Malazan up a lot. I don't think this is even close to the level of complexity of Malazan.
Sure.
I just need to throw that out there. But there is a certain level of, I wouldn't say complexity. I think there's a certain level of interwoven detail
Yeah.
and subtext that you're not going to catch if you're not paying attention. And that's fine. I think you can still enjoy the story if you don't catch that. But if you do, it makes it so much deeper and so much cooler to me,
Oh yeah.
So,
Well, and I
yeah.
feel like just got done playing Zelda and I found 80% of the Easter eggs. I
Yeah.
know there's more out there that I didn't catch. But the nice thing is that people that read fantasy books mostly are nerds and are kind of smart. So
Yeah. 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 And, look, I totally get it. Sometimes you just want to switch your brain off and read an easy book, and that's fine.
sure.
I have those moments as well. But, when you're, like feeling like you want to dive into something and feel some intrigue and kind of like, it's kind of like a murder mystery. You're trying to solve the book as it goes along.
Mm-hmm.
Then my books are there for you,
Deeply.
Yeah.
Well, because the thing is, I feel like I'm gonna get like a third of the way into book 2 and need to figure out which chapter I need to go back to check and see whether I know what I'm talking about on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fun because it's like you said, it kind of becomes a puzzle. It's a mystery to put together.
Yeah.
And but again, coming back around, to me, it's just character, and I gotta hand it to you, man. One of my favorites is it Kalia or Kalia?
Kalia, the
Kalia.
Azuri princess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kalia just casually poisoning Adrian. He's one of my absolute favorites. It's like, oh God.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you're here now, kid, and I'm in control. That's
Yeah.
what that scene is for. It's just like, look, I'm in control here, so don't try anything funny, right? But he's Adrian. Chris is going to try something funny.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
He's gonna run. He's gonna run. He's gonna get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wait, I can't. I'm poisoned.
Yeah. And I mean,
I
the
thought that
details that I
scene.
talked about, like the same flower that poisons Adrian is a flower that appears at the very last chapter in Nasha's chapter when she says she's going to send people off to Azure. So that's kind of like an alarm bell of maybe something's not right here. And I even have a character mention it. But you know, those are the kind of little details that I like to weave in. That you're not going to lose anything if you don't pick up on that. It's just like a cool little Easter egg. But if you do like pick up on that and start to understand how stuff is connected, because if you do pick up on the details between Adrian and Nasha's story, you're going to realize that it's a mirror. They're going through the same things. They just react differently. So, and that I pulled from the no plot Abercrombie books. No plot in quotations, because Abercrombie does that a lot. I mentioned it yesterday in the comments. Glokta is Jazal after torture.
Yeah,
they're like the same person.
Well, you see mirrors all over the place in Abercrombie's, and your idea about, oh shoot, you had a brilliant one that I loved about a lot of it just turning the trope on its head and finding the opposite of what you're expecting and playing that out is the plot.
Oh yeah. The subversion is the plot for Abercrombie, because you expect, like, not having a plot is the plot for Abercrombie. It's how he subverts the traditional fantasy plot, because and you see that a lot in book 2 as well. It's like the quest, right? The journey to the place where they need to find stuff, and you get there and there's just like subversion, right? And do people feel frustrated sometimes? I walked all this way. I was waiting for a payoff. Where's my payoff? Because you're used to that. And I'm not saying every book has to be like that, or, you have to be like kind of a smart ass and do that. But Abercrombie does that really well. So,
well, and I feel like he, like you, can get away, you, like him, can get away with a lot because the characters have me so emotionally invested.
Yeah.
That you've got me by the nose. You can take me wherever you want to go, and I'm probably going to be fine.
Yeah. I mean, if you trust me, I feel like you're going to really enjoy the series, right?
Yeah.
If you're looking for plot holes or stuff that isn't working, then I think you're expending energy in the wrong place, and you're not going to pick up on the cool little Easter eggs that are going to make your experience better.
Right. Well, or, like you said, so some people just aren't suited for it.
Yeah, and that's fine. Okay. I want to make this clear.
I'm not glad I was. I'm so glad I was.
I'm not criticizing people who this book might not be for them, and it's fine. It's absolutely fine.
No books for everyone. Okay, so leveling up to my favorite.
Everyone's favorite.
Favorite character I've read this year without looking too hard? Yeah, probably.
Cool. That's awesome. Nazir, right?
And I've said what?
Nazir. You're talking about Nazir.
Yeah, Nazir is amazing because he's so sinister. Lynn, Sentinel in training.
Yeah.
I fell in love. And you and I talked earlier about this, and I felt like she was what Galadriel should have been in
Rings of Power.
Rings of Power.
I didn't watch Rings of Power, but yeah, I trust you.
Well, no, it was one of those series where I kept going, trying to get involved, and just kept failing again and again. So I think I made it 5 or 6 episodes in. Like I didn't even have the strength to finish it off.
Yeah.
And not because it was bad, because it was vanilla.
Mm-hmm. Vanilla is like worse than bad, because if it's bad, you can at least, play a game. I don't know how bad can this be. If it's vanilla, you still kind of like have hope, and you keep waiting and waiting and waiting for, they're going to fix it now, right? It's going to be good now, right? And then it never is. And you're like, oh. I kind of felt that way watching The Witcher, the series.
Yeah. I think a lot of people had unmet expectations, but they're in season 4 with a new actor, so they're doing something right. Except for
the end of, is it season? I don't know. The end of the last season, it's again they're like stringing you along the entire season, and they make you a promise of, look, next season's gonna be really cool. Next season's when things are gonna happen. But at that point, I was just like, nah, man, I don't trust you anymore. You had to give me something this season,
Yeah.
to keep trusting you, and you didn't. So bye bye.
So I'm going to start at the bottom of Lynn and work my way up. I
Okay.
just need to
Okay.
say,
Okay.
because you and I talked about this way back when it wasn't the first cover, it was the second cover, but the scythe that was on the cover is like, oh, okay, it's this thing. I loved the scythe,
Yeah.
loved it, because I felt all of that, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
whole action is like, I'm using this, and I'm using the mace, and I'm using the blade, and I'm using the. It's like
Yeah.
in my head. And by the way, I do need to, while we're at it, talk about battle sequences, because all of the praise that you've gotten from everybody is so well
Yeah.
deserved, because it just works and works and works and works. I could read 150 pages of straight battle sequence out of you.
That's awesome. I mean, I'll be honest, all the battle scene praise kind of caught me by surprise, because I did not feel like I was good at writing battle scenes when I wrote the book. I was just like,
I'm
I
so
mean,
glad you've been proven wrong.
I didn't think they were bad, but I thought, they were. I thought the stuff that happened in the battle was cool, and because I didn't feel comfortable writing battle scenes, I think I studied that a lot, and maybe I tried to overcompensate, and maybe that is what gave me a little bit more ability to write them and made them work out in the end. And now it's a lot more comfortable because I kind of like know what I need to do. But um, it was not a comfortable experience writing battles in the beginning. It was like I feel a lot more comfortable just writing dialogue between two characters than actually writing a battle, even today. So yeah, it's always great to hear that I'm doing something right with battles.
The struggle is paying off, I guess, is what I want to say
Yeah,
out of that,
yeah, I think so.
because they're emotionally tense and they're clean. I
Mhm.
follow every beat that you want
Yeah,
me to follow every step of the way along the action sequence, and I'm emotionally invested in the characters enough that I'm frightened that they're going to not die but get injured or have something awful happen to them. I'm
they might die.
involved. Each move feels
Yeah,
like it's something unique and different, and I just
yeah. I mean, once they're done, I really like coming up with unique ideas for what happens in battles, right?
Mhm.
I don't like just going, okay, we need this battle, so these two armies are going to clash, and you know this person's going to die or whatever. I want to have something different in battles, so I go about it in the way like, this is the battle where people on the ground fight an airship, for example, or they have to flee this airship. This is the Griffins versus airships battle. This is the uh airships sieging a city battle or whatever. This is the Griffins attacking an army on the ground battle. It's just like,
I literally have in my notes Griffin versus airship equals
yeah,
badass.
yeah. And that's kind of like how the battle's born, right? Because if I have Griffins versus airships in every single battle, it loses its kind of flair. It becomes boring, I
It
guess.
becomes a repeat
Uh,
beat.
yeah. So I'm very careful and very uh you know very intentional about that. About, this is the battle with this is the battle with that, and I try not to repeat too many similar things.
Yeah,
I
didn't
mean,
didn't
once you
find
have
any
the Griffins
repeats.
involved, you're gonna have to kind of have Griffins in most battles,
Yeah,
but it's just where you put the GoPro, right? It's like, okay, Griffins are flying above and fighting, but what if we focused on this bit, make it a little different, and make something really cool happen,
Mhm.
like the vials being shot at the walls, for example,
Right.
right? Uh, That's something I'm really proud to have come up with.
Yeah.
Um,
Brutal.
and it makes it completely different, right? So
It's
yeah,
like, let's change it up.
yeah.
So with Lynn, the thing, there were a lot of things that worked, but the haunted conversations that she keeps having throughout.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I wanted more of it, and I knew if I got more, it would have gone down because it was like too much. Because I really feel like you threaded that line on just enough.
Yeah.
But that it's one of the best internal monologue devices I've ever seen. Period.
You're trying to make me blush. You're trying to compensate for the Seahawks pick.
Has anybody chosen Will Levis yet? No.
Oh man, if they pick Will Levis at 20, I don't know what I'm gonna think about that.
Man, nobody's picking Will Levis.
Wow, yeah, everyone's passed on him.
Yeah.
Wow.
The answer is no, Will. And there's a reason why.
5 picks. By the way, I told Mike that if the Seahawks didn't get Jalen Carter, the Eagles would, and that's what happened. So yeah.
Well, and the Ravens retained their quarterback today.
Oh, they did? They gave did he accept the contract?
It was like 180 guaranteed.
Yeah.
So he got what he wanted.
Yeah.
Now you just got to spend all your time apologizing to Baltimore. Anyway.
Anyway, getting back to
but the Dentos and Arlen, are there like 4 of them? There got to be 4 of them, right?
Yeah, it's 4 of them.
It's always 4. Everything's in 4s. I'm
so glad you were. Did I tell you that the 4 was an important number in the series?
No.
Oh, no, I'm so glad you picked up on that.
Oh, I got that somewhere around the time I realized that the 4 sections of the church, the 4 factions of the church, were kind of, and I was like trying to figure them out and trying to remember, okay, this one is this and this one is this. And once I started thinking about that, then I started noticing all the 4s. And it was like,
yes. It's always 4. And you know why? Can you guess? Can you guess why it's always 4?
There was a period when I thought that, I'm sure this is wrong, but each book was going to be based on the ethos of each different section of the church.
Okay.
But I don't, when I got done with Touch of Light, I couldn't like bullseye. That theory doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Other than that, what do you got?
4 is the number of death in Asian cultures.
Oh, I thought 8 is unlucky. 4 is death.
Yeah.
That is slick.
That's part of it. But I'm so happy when people pick up on the 4s. It's 4 books. It's 4 POVs. By the end of it, there's an extra POV in the next book, and 4 sections of the church, 4 clans, and it's always 4. It's always 4. So yeah.
Is the 4th POV Nasser?
No. It's a new guy. You don't know him. Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah.
He's new in town.
It's yeah. Not new in his town, but we haven't visited his town yet in Touch of Light. Okay. He's from the Westlands.
Okay.
It's the nation that Bahar represents with the clans.
So in creating this device of the different voices feeding into her head, I don't know. I just talk to me about writing that and coming up with that, and because I loved it. I'd steal it if I could. I just think it's awesome.
I took a long time to land on that. I started with Lynn like very different from where she is today, and I had to kind of iterate, like go through, agile sprints or whatever until I had like every little piece of her built, right? So I knew I wanted her to be a tough warrior. I knew I wanted her to be a sentinel. I knew I wanted her to be a griffin rider and all that. Um, I knew I wanted her to have trouble or tension with her order and her faith, because the sentinels are called sentinels because they are the one who watch for the faith. They're the one who are they're the ones who are so faithful that they are allowed to kill, because the church believes their faith is stronger than anything that death can throw at you, basically, right? So they watch for the people. They kind of like protect the people against the powers of death,
Yeah.
let's say. And as I said, my kind of creative like drive is based on logic. So once you get like those concepts down, you're like, okay, so if she needs tension with the church, then what's the worst thing that can happen, right? So what if your protector that's meant to be ultra faithful actually has trouble dealing with death, if the people she she's dealing with, the death of the people she's dealing with are people who are really close to her? What then? Who watches the watchman, basically? uh so I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. And I usually write late at night, and I was kind of like having brainstorming sessions, and I paused for a bit, and I started playing. I knew I wanted her to have like some kind of mental health rep. I started playing Senua's Sacrifice, Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice.
Okay.
If you like search for this on YouTube, you can probably find this. But the opening scene of the game, which is a woman who basically goes into Viking hell in search for her husband, her boyfriend, or whoever it is, to bring him back from hell. Kind of like Dante's Inferno, I guess, but in a Viking setting. So the very, very first scene is her paddling down this misty river that looks like a huge lake. You don't see the edges of it. It's the river that leads into Viking Hill, and there are a million different voices in her mind. And every voice is saying something. And some voices are really aggressive, like screaming at her, and others are like, don't talk to her like that, and trying to protect her and all. And it's just crazy. And I knew madness would play a big part in it. So, I wanted to raise the question of, is she mad as well? Because madness is kind of like her enemy from the past.
Mm-hmm.
And once I played through the scene, I was like, yes, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put voices in her head, because I was like with headphones, and it felt like the voices were in my head, and it was like super dark at night, and that was like a moment that I think really made Lynn. Like I need to thank the people who made that game like forever, because that moment made Lynn into the character that I think is one of the reasons that everybody loves her, are the voices in her mind. And when I started like testing that and writing out these voices, because I'd written a few chapters without the voices,
Sure.
and it just wasn't hitting home the same way. Once I put the voices in, it was like, oh man, yeah, this is it. Yeah,
Ooh, that's spicy.
yeah,
I like that. Let me
yeah,
give it some
yeah,
more.
yeah,
The idea of her as the bringer of death
hmm
in this culture that will do anything to avoid it.
yeah,
Um, I don't know. I like how she's at odds with almost everything in her life.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
like this
and
complete sphere of no.
yeah, and again, that's a little my Abercrombie kind of influence, I guess, which is subverting the paladin shining armor, that's supposed to be ultra faithful. And it's like, nope, she's human too. She has trouble as well. She's not like, she's true to her faith, but if the church is preaching something that goes against her faith, will she go with what the church is preaching, or with what she believes she needs to do, or, you know,
Well, and
if
oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, it's just like, she's supposed to be, death is the enemy. She keeps saying that, but death is basically in her head from page one. The voices are in her head. The voices of dead people are in her head from page
Yeah.
one. So, yeah, what's up with that?
And oh, by the way, she killed him.
Yeah. Yeah. By the
As
way.
a side note, the way that you weaved Elwyn in
Mm-hmm.
from the beginning
Mm-hmm.
just
Not
worked.
everyone picks up on that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because he's an authority figure in two people's lives. He's mentioned like 9 times before we get him
Yeah.
on screen.
Yeah, I know.
And when we do, it's like, oh, this is different
Yeah.
from what we were expecting.
Yeah. Not everyone picks up that he is the Sentinel in the prologue, who is also Lynn's mentor. And yeah, and I mean, that's fine. Again, I'm not talking down to you. I'm not saying, you didn't pick that up. I mean, I wrote the book, so I'm obviously gonna pick it up. But I call that reread value. The
Yeah.
best thing that can happen to me, and I felt that with Name of the Wind,
Mhm.
which is, when you read it again, you kind of know the story, but you
Deeper.
you start you start picking up on stuff. You go another layer in. It's like, oh, this is really cool, and then you start coming up with theories and stuff. I mean, that's just like the
If you take
greatest
the
experience
first
for me.
letter from every word of the song,
I know. It makes up it makes up the name of something which is in a different language that then tells you it's the Chandrian guy. It's like, oh, it's so crazy, dude. And it's like, is that a herring? Is he doing that just to make fun of us, or is it the answer? Is he hiding the answer in plain sight? And I do that a lot. If you read my book
right.
like
Well,
five
you've said
times, you're
that a
gonna know
million
what's happening
times.
at the end.
They're right
Yeah,
there for you.
yeah. And if you read a touch of like I don't know, 3, 4, or 5 times, you will know what's gonna happen by the end of the series. I guarantee it. You're gonna know what's gonna happen because it's there.
Because it's
It's all
there.
there. Yeah, people just don't see it.
Um, the So I guess what I want to say about Lynn is thank you. And because I was on her side the entire story and just wanted her to find some kind of relief or success or something.
Yeah,
Um, all of which culminated in the Griffin versus Airship. It's maybe a page and a half, but
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like I was so in at that point, and then she jumped, and you got the
yeah,
ellipsis there. It's like what?
yeah. I use too many ellipsi. I don't know what the plural of ellipses
I
is, but
I think I didn't catch a stray one. How about that? I,
yeah,
I felt like they all got used to purpose.
yeah, yeah.
But
I love like the effect that they give you, the pause. To me, ellipses say, "Pay attention now. Look, this is the
now,
time that you need to pay attention."
well,
I'm giving you a breath. It's the potion before the boss in the game.
there you go.
When you're when you're like walking down the path and the game starts giving you potions, a boss is coming up, right? So it's like, so you pause and you take a breath and you look at it. And
And then
the
she
ellipsis
jumped.
is, yeah,
Um, I guess we'll, and I don't mean to go over the hour. So are you okay going another like 10 minutes?
absolutely, dude,
Okay.
absolutely.
Um, Friggin' Vader. And the best thing about Vader is no, 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 no. Like this whole time, you develop this relationship between the two of them, and yet don't let them have a relationship.
Yeah, it's because again, she's driven by fear. She's afraid of what death is going to do to the ones that she loves around her. She's lost everyone that she loves. And again, when I tell you stuff is a mirror, who else lost everyone around him that he cared about? Adrian.
Hmm.
You know who doesn't even remember her past and loses everyone she cares about around her? Nasha. So, and Lynn has lost everyone that she cares about. The only one that's left is Vadir.
Yeah.
So she's like, no, I'm not letting you come close to me because death is always looking over my shoulder and you're gonna die. If you stay close to me, you're gonna die. So I'm
I've got
not
proof.
letting you get
Voices in my
close.
head tell me so.
Yeah, exactly. uh and yeah, eventually, she can't fight it alone, I guess. The power of friendship trumps all.
Well, and that's what was so satisfying.
Yeah,
Is it
yeah,
just it's like, yeah, here we
yeah,
go.
yeah. And when they eventually, reunite, it's like, okay, now this has to be really badass. And that's why that fight is so like
Right.
over the top
Hey, let me
crazy.
pay off 450 pages for you. Hang on.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But it, and not. I know everybody goes Griffins,
Mhm.
but it's not Griffins to me. It's like this deep, well thought out relationship and symbiotic relationship between the two of them, and
Yeah,
how that goes back and forth, and how that relationship develops during the course of the book, because we're denied it for so long.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I Griffin, I don't care. That relationship, I care.
hmm Yeah, I mean, exactly. And again, once I've laid out the groundwork, once I've built that relationship, you're gonna care a lot about it in book two because they're finally together, and Lynn starts to accept it, and but stuff is still going on. So
Kicking ass and taking names. For the
yeah,
longest time, I got to keep moving. For the longest time, I thought that the Seraph was a group,
uh-huh.
and then I think you corrected me actually at one point, saying because you brought it to singular. I was like, wait a second. I got to be honest with you. I may hate the Seraph.
I mean, that's absolutely fair. Uh, Part of the book is making you ask questions, and I'm glad that you're asking questions. Because a lot of my influence of using religion, and again, isn't to preach or to pass on any ideas that I have about religion, but one of the things that I hear people talk about all the time is, why does God let bad things happen on earth? If he's almighty, if he's all powerful, why does he let, children die or whatever?
Right.
And some people might ask those questions to a point where they might think they hate God. And, you know, some people in my world might ask those questions about the seraph. And
Right.
why isn't the seraph protecting me? Why isn't the seraph, if she hates death so much, why didn't she come down and stop it? Right. And there's actually a bit of dialogue between Farron and Lynn on that.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And
and the
I think,
realization that Adrian's 200-year lifespan comes at a massive cost, along
yeah,
with everybody else who's living longer than they should.
yeah, 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 yeah. And I mean, that's it, right? There's no free lunch.
All right, so I want to, and I'm sorry, I need to be respectful of your time, but
Dude, I'm completely fine. It's early for me.
um, I have written down, you're a monster
I'm
several
proud of that.
times in
Yeah,
this book.
yeah.
I think maybe number one for me has to be people with the madness wearing the peeled off skin on their what kind of monster are you? Who hurt you, Thiago? Who wounded you this much?
It had to be scary. I mean, how are they going to scare away people from a religion that promises them eternal life? It's by showing them they're not scared of that religion, and they probably have something deeper going on that you should be more scared about. So they're using the power of fear to break people's faith. They're telling you your seraph isn't strong enough to stop us. Or if you keep reading, you'll find that maybe they have a different opinion of what the seraph should be doing, and they are maybe the true faithful, which is what they actually say in this book. So, and they don't care about the dead. They don't care about the bodies, and that's why they defile the bodies. That's why they use the masks, because that's their way of showing people, your pontiff who keeps all the bodies preserved so that your people can be brought back. We don't care about that. True faith is trusting that you'll be brought back with or without your body. That's why they use skin masks.
Wow.
So it's not just, off the cuff, I'm going to be grimdark. It's what is the most extreme example that will put the fear of God into my enemy if I do this. And that's it. They're just saying, my faith is stronger than yours. If you want salvation, come over to my side. Otherwise, you're going to go mad and die.
Right. Well, that was the thing, is that the realization that they're not all mad was an absolute gut punch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that was close to the end of the book.
Yeah.
It's right at the end of Lynn's final chapter.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. It's one of her last realizations, because she was kind of telling herself she was doing the Seraph's work. She was killing the Seraph's enemies, so it was okay for her to kill. Because if you look closely, the first person she kills, the first time she kills, it's after she goes back to her old church and meets up with an old friend who has the madness.
Right.
That's the first time she kills in the book, and it kind of goes downhill from there.
Okay.
But she keeps kind of justifying to herself, he told me the Sentinels need my help. I'm coming back to the Sentinels. I'm stepping out of the shadows, and I'm not going to run anymore. I have to face this. It's okay to kill these people because they're the Seraph's enemies, so it's fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're unworthy, automatically unworthy, because they're the madness.
Mm-hmm.
But then she finds out they're not all mad, and maybe she didn't have to. It's war. How are you not going to kill people, right? But because the religion is the way that it is, it always hangs over your head. And again, that's something else that I wanted to show. How important is it to feel guilty about something you do if the result is what's being required of you, I guess, or if you're being forced into it, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was what that kind of moment was about, when she realizes that. But then she also realizes, the madness isn't natural. It's not something that occurs from kind of demon or entity opposed to the seraph.
No.
We are our own demons.
We are manufacturing this product for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was a great reveal to end on. I think it's really interesting that you're able to. 2 out of the 3 characters you leave in really bad shape.
Mm-hmm.
Nasha's semi-okay because her teaming up with Shai is the end of her story in the first book.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So you leave
but she kind of loses her mentor figure and loses everything she believed in the clans, and still has to go back to the clans, right? Because her plan fails. Because Bahar, who was also her friend, kind of betrays her, right?
Oh yeah, well, yeah. But that moment of light at the end with
Shai, you need some hope. You need some hope.
Yeah. So the idea that you're able to bring the story to a satisfying conclusion, and yet leave me on 2 cliffhangers while you're at it.
I'm sorry.
No. I'm. It's like threading a needle. I don't know quite how you pulled it off.
Structure, dude. Yeah.
Structure, dude.
Yeah.
And Act 3.
It's structure. It's just, I mean, I outlined, I knew where I wanted to end book 1 before I started writing it, and I structured the plot open with the character arcs. And yeah, it is kind of like threading a needle, but it, the secret about books is editing, right? And you as an author know that.
Amen.
But when you're reading the book, you forget how many, or you don't know how many times that book was edited, how many times that was that like single plot point was discussed over and over and over and obsessed about, right?
Mm-hmm.
You read the book once and it looks like it was done in real time. So it feels like threading the needle because
I just rattled this off, buddy.
yeah, you're just reading it once. So it looks like, and that's one of the main reasons why people read published authors and say, I'm never going to be an author. I'm never going to write this good. Right. And I said that a ton of times, and I still think I don't write as good as my, my favorite authors. But the thing is, you don't see how much that was edited. You don't see where that story started and how many different versions it had until it gets to the published version. You only read the published version. You only read the end result, and it looks like real time because you're reading it in real time, right?
Right.
So it's like, wow, how did he pull this off? It feels like the author thought about that all at once and just wrote it down. First try.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, that's not true. The rest of books wouldn't take like a year to write. You write them in a week. Yeah.
I felt, because this is hard, is when you get to the end of something where hey, really, if you want this story, you're going to need to read the series. Yeah. And getting to the end of it and feeling like I am satisfied with my care and I need to know more. And I want to know more. I need to know more.
Yeah.
And I think that it was, I think you stuck the landing. How about that?
Thanks. That's great. That's great. I'll be honest. I am super proud of that ending. I'm super proud that I managed to identify that was the place I needed to stop. Like exactly there. A moment earlier or a moment later wouldn't have worked as well. But I am so glad I managed to identify that. I'm pretty proud of that ending, to be honest. And it's kind of mean to some people, but I'm proud of it. So
you should be. I will never stand in between you and being proud of your work. I just, thanks for giving me a good time.
Thank you. It's always super fun to chat, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and I'm sorry if I haven't kept up with the chat, but it's really cool that you're liking it, Jane. And Andrew, I lost count of how many times I read it until I managed to implement the subtext, not pick up on the subtext, because the subtext was in my head. I just needed to find out how to put it into the book. So yeah.
And one of the things that I have picked up from you is multiple edits. Like just not afraid to keep getting notes.
Yeah.
Because that's where you get the streamline going and it gets cleaner and cleaner every time.
Yeah. I'm obsessive with edits. I will edit the book until infinity. It's my way of beating imposter syndrome, Yeah.
Well, and it gets tighter every time, and that's always good.
Yeah. And my editor told me something when I was writing Touch of Light way back 2-3 years ago. Proximity creates blind spots. You can't trust your brain for stuff that you're close to.
Yeah.
So you have the story in your head, and your brain actually, it's a physical kind of like condition. Your brain fixes stuff for you because you know how it's supposed to be. So when you're reading through it and when you're self-editing, sure, you still need to self-edit, but if you do it yourself and don't give it to someone else, you won't pick up on the mistakes. You won't see stuff because you're too close to it.
Right.
And that's why we don't pick up on typos. Basically, and I'm not talking about typos. I'm talking about all the other stuff that's a lot more important. But typos is the easy example. So,
Right.
You don't pick up on typos because your brain fixes the typo for you, and when you read it, you don't pick up on the typo, and because you know how it's supposed to sound, you know the word that's supposed to be there, right? It's the same thing that I don't know if you've seen those tests that people scramble the words in the middle, the letters in the middle of the word, and just the first and last letter are
That's
the
what you
same.
read.
So yeah, and you read it and you don't even notice it, right?
Mhm.
Because you know what word's supposed to be there based on context, right? And that's what your brain does. That's why you don't pick up on typos, and that's why you need editors in your life. So not only because of typos, dev edit. The dev edit is something that no one talks about. The developmental edit. No one talks about that. It's the most important part of the story, in my opinion.
I don't understand why it's not something that everybody's talking about all the time.
Yeah. I mean,
Because
people usually do the copy edit, which is fixing grammar and typos, right?
Right.
That's the edit that most authors do.
Yeah. That's
Because
neat and all, but
yeah. It's like you can polish a cracked vase. It's still going to be a cracked vase. It's still going to be imperfect, right?
And you can gold plate a turd.
Yeah.
Still be a turd.
Yeah. So you can only polish something after it's ready. The copy edit is the polish, right? If you haven't shaped like the wood or the turd or whatever, it doesn't matter how much gold plating you put upon it. It's still not gonna be, what you want it to be. So the dev
and
edit
more
is what fixed
importantly,
that.
what the audience needs it to be.
Exactly.
Right. You got to take them and bring them with you every step of the way. And if you don't, or you lose them, or you don't explain something thoroughly, or they get confused, it's swing and a miss, Buster.
Yeah. And look, I get it. Editing is expensive, dude. But I'm just saying, if you're gonna spend on editing to do the copy edit, I'm gonna go on a limb here. I'm gonna tell you, don't do the copy edit, do the dev edit.
Do the dev edit.
Yeah. You can spend time doing copy editing and get, something like a result that's better of you doing copy edit rather than you attempting to do a dev edit instead, right?
Yep.
So it's better to pay for professional dev editing than copy editing, in my opinion. I'm not saying you should do dev, line, and copy. You should do all three, right? But if you can't, my opinion is you should do dev editing above the other two. So,
doing your own dev edit. It's like also doing your own dentistry.
Yeah, basically.
It's like, well, that job looks easy. Just give me a mirror.
Yeah, our brains love to trick us. It's like, it's fine. There aren't any plot holes. You've read the book. You created this story. You outlined it. And like the first time you give it to and I mean, a lot of people get around doing the dev edit by giving it to beta readers, right? And sure, that's fine if you can't pay for a dev edit, but you really need to look at who are your beta readers, right? What are they going to pick up on? Because the first time you give it to someone else, doesn't matter who it is, they will pick up on stuff that you didn't see. It's just the way it is.
There will be notes.
Yeah.
Nothing's that polished coming right off the rack.
Yeah.
Well, and have you ever gotten notes on a dev edit that you just didn't feel grateful for at all? I mean, maybe they're 10% that you decide, well, I don't know if I want to address that one, but 90% of them is like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, I've been super fortunate with my dev editor, especially because he just bought into the story, and we just chatted about the entire series, and he knows everything that's going to happen, and that helps him kind of read the books, you know, with that kind of goalpost in mind. And he's just super, super, super like careful about the way that he goes about things and talks to me, and you know, he doesn't try to rip me down so that I so that I, you know, learn from my mistakes. And no, he's like he's always like a partner, and he's like my writing partner in this, and he helps me a ton. Of course, there are some things that he tells me that I'm like, I don't agree with this. I appreciate your input, but I'm going to keep it this way, or I'm going to go this direction. And he's obviously always fine with that as well. But I'd say I implement like 90% at least of what he tells me.
Yeah, that feels the same for me. It's like about 10% I will either justify in my head, and I'm not sure which, or decide, okay, no, what I want to do is strong enough there that I want to die on this hill.
Yeah, and I've had the opposite experience as well. You know, I've had editors that completely ripped me to shreds, and that made me kind of like say, okay, why did I even write this? But I take a moment, I take a breath, and I go back and I search for like the core of what they're saying, and it makes sense. It's just the way that they're saying it that sometimes is a little, and it's not because they're trying to be hurtful. It's just because they're being direct about it, right?
Yeah.
And you are emotionally attached to your stuff at the beginning. I mean, after 2 books, you don't even feel it anymore, right? You yeah, rip it apart. I don't care. But you know, like the first time that someone rips into your book, you're like, man, but I put so much work into this. And it's like doesn't matter.
No one cares.
What matters is, no one cares how much work you put into it. You know, a bucket of sweat isn't worth anything.
Yeah.
So, just you know, go ahead and fix this stuff and learn from it. And yeah, I mean, obviously, no one wants to have their work be ripped apart. And I'm not suggesting editors do that, but if as an author you're willing to understand the core of what they're telling you, and if you believe in what the editor is telling you, I think there's always something to take from it, right? So
yeah. And even when I would rather have a mean edit than have somebody who said, oh, it's good. You know, I don't, oh, it's good doesn't help me.
Yeah. It's like, okay, but what isn't good? Because I need to change. I know I have stuff to fix, right? So yeah, what isn't good? But yeah, I mean, editing is I love editing. It's the most fun part for me of the whole process. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think it's time for me to head on up. But thanks for spending the time always. And
thank you, man.
I appreciate you so much. You know that. But thanks for writing a great book.
It's really, really heartwarming to see, you know, you talking about it and see how much you loved it. And even better that, you know, Blackjack was one of my favorite reads from last year. So, you know, it's so cool to have like you liking my books, because I also loved your book so much. So
it helps.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you and I would be buddies, even if you're like, dude, not for me.
Obviously.
It helps kind of being able to, I like what you're doing. What are you doing now?
And both books are so different, right?
Oh, they couldn't be more different.
I think we had kind of like the same experience when each of us started reading the other's book. I thought my book wasn't going to be for you because you said you don't love the complex political stuff, right?
No, I don't.
And I don't usually read kind of like the YA portal fantasy stuff.
Nope.
But I think the same way that you found depth in what I did, I found depth in your characters and your relationships, and that's the same. And that's what spoke to us. And I think that's what makes, both experiences awesome.
Well, and you and I kind of beat this. We hear the same tune when it comes to books, in that we're mostly looking for character. We're mostly looking for somebody to fall in love with.
Yeah.
Right. And if that's Lynn or Sandan Glokta or whoever it is, it's give me a character, give me Jaime Lannister. Give me a character that's going to stand out in my head forever.
Yeah.
And that I honestly feel like that's why I read fantasy, is because
I think so too.
I'm looking for those characters that can just stand forever in my head as being, oh yeah, I like them.
Yeah, it's the reason we read, right? It's I promise I'm not going to go into 20 more minutes of stuff here. But I mean, we tell stories since the beginning of time as a survival mechanism, right? Because if tigers live in that bush, you're not going to go into that bush, right? Or that field. So you don't have to test it out for yourself. As if someone has told you the story about the guy who got eaten by a tiger when he went out into that field. So you're not going to test it for yourself because you've been told that story. And that was ingrained in our brains, and we evolved that in our brains. So while you're not going to be attacked by tigers today, you use characters, you use emotions, and you use relationships to learn and understand stuff that goes on in our lives today. And that's why we're drawn to character, right? That's why character is so important, because they are the bridge of what experience the author is trying to bring you, regardless of setting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically why we read. And that's why we go for characters, I think. And that's why subtext is so important to me as well, because it's what shows you the depth of what those characters are going through. Right. So, yeah.
I like that. I think that's a great summary.
Yeah. There's a book called Story Genius that talks a lot about that. Okay. I really recommend it. Yeah. Lisa Cron. It's a great book.
I'm going to dive into a couple of those. And for our latest report, no one has still chosen Will Levis.
No, the Seahawks just picked Jackson Smith and Jigba, which is actually a good pick. He's a very good wide receiver, and our offense is going to be scary with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I like that guy at 20. I like him.
I think you're going to be. I think the Seahawks will not be picking low in the draft next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, we still need to.
We'll still be picking at number 4.
I mean, I would honestly not play Anthony Richardson. I'd let him sit for a year and learn.
Yeah,
that's why I wanted him. Doesn't matter. I mean, doesn't matter.
Oh, shit. Don't you love it when the web just starts talking to you and throws a commercial in front of you? It's like, I'm looking at the draft. Oh no, wait, don't do that.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who he sits behind, man, because if you're bad, you're bad, and then you get another pick next year, But you have the quarterback of the future.
Be bad again.
I mean, sure. It's just another year.
The trick is being to lose in the AFC South. It takes guts to lose when you're playing in the AFC South. It's really easy to win.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And that's been the Colts' problem, right? You guys are never picking high enough to get the quarterback that you can really trust. So,
well, we were supposed to have Andrew Luck, but turns out when you don't provide an offensive line for a guy and he ruptures his kidney, it's like, I'm done. I think I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you call that unlucky?
Oh, there were so many luck jokes running around India.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I totally get it. It's a brutal sport, dude.
Yeah. Well, it's brutal sport, and there's no room for second place. I mean, it's like, hey, you got injured, you broke your leg. See you later. We're trading you. We're dumping you from
Yeah.
the roster.
Yeah.
Adios.
Yeah, it's
The
tough.
thing that amazes me about the NFL is that the average career is 2 years, and they're broke 5 years after they leave the NFL.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you went to the pinnacle and back down in your 20s.
Yeah.
By the time you're 25.
Yeah. Yeah, it sucks. But I mean, I don't know, man. I think I don't even know who your quarterback is today. Who played quarterback? It was Matt
We
Ryan.
don't know who our quarterback is right now either.
Yeah, but it was Matt Ryan, right? Last
It
year.
was Matt Ryan, and then we fired Matt Ryan, and then we brought in our second string quarterback, and he was no good, and our third string quarterback, and he was no good, and then we brought back Matt Ryan.
You guys brought in Gardner Minshew. I remember now.
Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, by the end of that season, Jeff Saturday is coaching the team, so who cares?
Look, if you have to play a year with Gardner Minshew for Anthony Richardson to really learn, and really bloom next year, I'd do that.
Yep.
I wanted him on the Seahawks to play behind Geno, and take over the team after like 2 or 3 years when Geno's done. I really wanted that, but we'll have to figure it out now because we're not picking at 5. I think, like with the team that we have, we're not picking at 5 again.
No.
And we got lucky because it was a Broncos pick. And that's why the cornerback pick makes me angry, because you already have a good secondary.
Yeah.
If you're going to pick someone at 5, pick someone to be the anchor of somewhere that, you need, like a quarterback or the defensive line.
Right.
Okay, the guy can be a stud. The guy's going to be like, an insane cornerback. Awesome. Cool. You have him and Tariq Woolen, no fly zone, whatever. They're still going to run the ball down your throat for 200 yards a game.
Right.
So you need to address that.
We address that by having a quarterback that throws 300 yards a game.
I mean, you know how stressful it is? Like the game with the Lions last year that was like 45-42. We actually ended up winning. But oh my God, that was like, you can't do that.
At the OK Corral.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I love football. We could talk about football like for another hour, but let's see. We'll see what they do in day 2. They didn't. Yeah, they didn't pick anyone for the defensive line. I mean, Elijah Cansey, which was kind of like a guy that was tied to the Seahawks, went like 1 pick before the Seahawks, so they ended up picking the wide receiver guy, GSN. But we'll see. There's still some good like defensive linemen on the board. It's a pretty talented defensive lineman group, I guess. So we'll see what they do tomorrow.
September is a long way away.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of stuff that can happen between whenever the draft is over, Saturday, and when the season starts.
Yeah.
So it's all on the table for everybody. You got to be smart and lucky.
Yeah, I guess.
Have the right pieces come into place and don't get injured.
Yeah.
All right. Especially I appreciate you. I am so glad that you and I got to have this time together. I'm glad it was a perfect excuse, really. Because it was like, okay, I get to talk to Thiago again. So
yeah, it was awesome, dude. Anytime. It's always cool chatting with you. So
yeah, we'll grab Meredith and do a thing.
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate you. Have a good one.
You too. See ya.
Ciao, bella.